Hello and welcome to this final video in the Threat Modeling with IriusRisk series, looking at the 4-question framework. In this video, we're going to look at the 4th question: did we do a good job? So jumping back into the project that we created earlier, the value of integrating into your issue tracking tools means that we have traceability from your threat modeling into your engineering backlogs. So we can see the progress that's been made on implementing any particular change. So we've cut down the view and let's just look at everything that's got an issue tracking ID associated with. And if we go, say, look at ticket 84, then we can see the issue in our backlog. So in order to collaborate between security and our engineering teams, we synchronize the content between issue tracking and IriusRisk. That includes the commentary, so we can have a dialogue between our engineering teams and our security teams. But most importantly, what we're looking for is tracking the progress on the work. So we want to answer the 4th question: how good a job are we doing? So that involves understanding what's being delivered, what's not being delivered. So we're tracking the states of our issue tracking tickets against the status in IriusRisk. So if we go to a done state, ultimately we want to know when a control has been implemented. So if we save that and we go back to our IriusRisk project, then by default, this will synchronize every 5 minutes. Now we can manually synchronize this, so we can force the issue, or we can change the synchronization timing. It depends on what we want to do within our environment. So I'm going to synchronize manually, and then I'm going to refresh the UI, and we can automatically see that the state of this control has transitioned to the implemented state. So it's been done in engineering, the threat has been mitigated. We can now see that in the threat model. So we know what's been done. We can then start to track all of these tickets. We can start to understand which threats have been mitigated, what work is still outstanding, and we can start to generate reports and dashboarding metrics to show how good a job we're doing. We can also ingest testing results, so we can identify if a control has passed its testing. That can obviously be done manually, or we can consume the output of various testing tools to be able to set this automatically and to provide regression testing capabilities to identify if a control has gone out of compliance at some future date. So the controls themselves feed back to threats, ultimately feed back to the project level to start to show what's been implemented. And we have much more required based on our compliance needs of the project and our feedback from our security team when they're reviewing this, the content. Ultimately, we start to identify the risk associated with a project. So at the beginning, when we have no controls implemented, then we have an inherent risk. And once we've identified the controls that we require, then we have a projected. So this is the level of risk we will have associated with a project once we've implemented all of the controls that we've identified. And obviously the current risk is where we are based on what we've done now. Because we don't license by user, anyone can log into the tool and view the status of the projects that they have access to. But ultimately, if we want to be able to socialize the state of our threat model project, then we can generate reports that show point in time what the status looks like. And at the moment, there are 4 pre-formatted reports. There's a current risk summary that provides us with essentially a threat model in a document. So it takes all of the status information related to the threats, their control status, and provides an output that can be consumed by users, sent via email, exported in whatever format is relevant. You can also get individual reports that relate to particular threat profile and the countermeasure profile. So just focusing in on the threats or the countermeasures. And we can also generate a compliance report. So if we're interested in something like GDPR, then we can generate a report which shows us how compliant we are with that particular standard. And that allows us to share that information globally. So obviously we don't have many controls implemented in this particular demo environment, but it starts to show which GDPR articles are relevant, which controls are required, if they've been implemented, validated, if they failed, or if they're non-compliant, i.e. we're not planning on doing anything to address them. And there's further detail in the report related to that. So we can generate those reports at any particular point in time, and as I say, download them, share them with stakeholders, embed them into other platforms. If you're interested in seeing a broader view of the landscape within the threat modeling environment, there's a separate analytics module. So analytics provides us with a BI capability to analyze the threat models, analyze what controls are implemented, and start to look at how well adoption is going over time. So which projects are progressing, which ones are not, and so forth. We can also take a broader view and step away from projects and start looking at the controls, the threats that are most prevalent in the organization, and then start to focus on strategic changes that might be required to mitigate those threats. So now we've looked at the full question framework and how IriusRisk addresses each of the questions. What are we building? What can go wrong? What are we going to do about it? And did we do a good job?